Today is a difficult day. Ilanga lishone emini. We're bidding farewell to our leader, His Majesty King Goodwill Zwelithini kaBhekuzulu, isilo samabandla onke. It is a difficult day because a huge tree has fallen. Uwile umuthi omkhulu. Our nation is indeed in mourning. It was with the heaviest of hearts that we received the news last week that our beloved leader and king, after a courageous struggle, succumbed to the deadly disease that has taken the lives of so many people. When our Premier Zikalala called me to give me the sad news, followed up by a telephone conversation with Ubaba Hushenge, sadness also descended upon me. I want to thank Umntwana kaPhindangene, particularly who kept me and the nation informed at all times of His Majesty's condition. He and I spoke on a number of occasions about the difficult situation the King was going through. The passing of isilo samabandla onke has been met with grief and sorrow throughout our land. On behalf of the people of South Africa, I express my deepest condolences to the royal family and to the Zulu nation on this profound loss. Many leaders and peoples of other countries across the African continent and other parts of the world have expressed their sorrow since hearing of His Majesty's passing. We also received the heartfelt condolences of the United Nations Secretary General, Mr. Antonio Guterres. As we mourn our beloved King, we also received the sad news about the passing of President Magufuli, President of Tanzania. I spoke to Her Excellency Vice President Hassan this morning and conveyed the condolences of the people of South Africa to the government and the people of Tanzania, our sister country, on their loss. As we all know, Tanzania is a country that stood with us during our struggle for freedom and sacrificed a lot, halting and delaying their own development so that we could be free. The passing of His Majesty means that we have lost a revered leader who had the distinction of leading the Zulu people for half a century. The significance of his long reign and his legacy is not lost on us. History will recall that after many years of conflict and turmoil, it was in the course of His Majesty's reign that the Zulu kingdom achieved stability and harmony that had so long eluded it. It was during the course of his reign that his people, alongside all the people of our country, realized their dream of freedom from the injustices of colonialism and apartheid. And it was during his reign that the decades of dispossession and the willful destruction of our knowledge and economic systems, our culture, and governance institutions came to an end. Mbube will be remembered for being the staunchest defender of his people. He not only defended and advanced the interests of the Zulu people, but advanced their culture, their customs, the traditions, and a deep sense of identity and nationhood. He is celebrated across our beloved continent, Africa, because he valued diversity and respected the cultures of other kingdoms and other nations. During the tumultuous period of political transition in this country, he played a significant role in the achievement of democracy. The King will be remembered for his role in bringing peace and stability to KwaZulu-Natal during the difficult times our country went through. Working together with a number of other leaders, and especially former President Jacob Zuma, they worked to ensure, together with Ubabo Ubuthelezi, that there is peace in this province. As a leader, he preached peace and unity. He abhorred violence and its consequences. As the country moved towards democracy, he called for an end to political killings, traveling around the country, as we heard from Premier Zikalala, going to the various parts of our country in hostels and villages, meeting and encouraging people to resort to peaceful means of resolving conflicts. At some point, as he sought to deal with the problem of violence, he said, "Who will I lead if all my father's people are killing each other?" His Majesty was a man who believed that the pursuit of violence is ethically and morally wrong. His Majesty was one of our most revered traditional leaders. As one of the elders of our country, his advice was regularly sought by leaders of different political persuasions, including myself. I remember with fondness the long and in-depth conversations I had with him on everything from rearing cattle, on agriculture, on leadership, culture, including international matters. Being in his presence was a rare privilege. He always exuded warmth, wisdom, and love for the people of South Africa and our entire continent. His Majesty was a champion for development and progress. He was a great visionary and had deep insights on how best to develop our country and its people. He advocated for better health outcomes among his people, leading from the front in the fight against HIV, AIDS, and TB. He founded the Bayete Trust, which has worked to mitigate the impact of HIV and AIDS throughout the province. He encouraged responsible behavior, especially among young people. He challenged the international community to avail more funding against the AIDS pandemic, and he also challenged the South African government to provide treatment to our people. Let it be clearly understood that moral courage was one of his noblest virtues. He encouraged young people to be safe from sexually transmitted diseases, from substance abuse, and from premature parenthood. I want to share a remarkable story about a very important project that will be part of His Majesty's enduring legacy. One of my responsibilities when I was Deputy President was to be chair of the South African National AIDS Council. My predecessor, then Deputy President Kgalema Motlanthe, had told me that there was a very critical project that he had started with the support from Isilo Samabandla. This was a project of reintroducing male circumcision, ukusoka, in the Zulu nation. Scientists had shown that ukusoka reduced the chances of transmitting HIV. During my term as Deputy President, working with various sectors of society, we saw this program grow here in KwaZulu-Natal. His Majesty was the champion of this intervention. He called on Amakosi, Izinduna, and community leaders in this province to support this initiative. Today we have thousands of young men undergoing safe medical circumcision, a practice that had been suspended by Ilembe because he needed men to be ready for battle in the nation-building process. Recognizing the new battle of saving lives, His Majesty readily called on his subjects and championed ukusoka as one of the weapons against the spread of HIV and AIDS. In leading this life-saving project, His Majesty demonstrated great courage and vision. We are grateful for this wonderful intervention that His Majesty led in. He revived a number of aspects of Zulu culture and heritage. In this respect, he proved to all that he was indeed the repository of culture and tradition. Isilo took it upon himself to restore two Zulu cultural activities that were no longer prominent as a result of colonial interference, namely Umkosi Womhlanga, the annual reed dance, and Umkosi Wekwashwama, the ceremony of the first fruits. Through his cultural revival program, His Majesty helped to turn this province into a cultural jewel and a compelling tourism destination, a major economic intervention indeed. He worked with the provincial leadership to showcase the KwaZulu-Natal province as one of the most attractive destinations for major global events, demonstrating the importance of culture and heritage preservation. We all remember that Isilo was also a lover of music and had varied musical tastes. He recognized the importance of musicians as cultural ambassadors and lent his support to the growth of various genres of music such as Maskandi, Iskatamia, Mbaqanga, and choral music. He believed that through supporting local music, supporting poetry and literature, that the stories and the histories of our people could not just gain a wider audience, but also educate the younger generation. His Majesty was also a great bridge builder between cultures. He appreciated the importance of unity and social cohesion. In recent years, he held Diwali Bayete celebrations here at the Ondini Royal Palace to welcome members of the Hindu community. He also had outreach activities with the Muslim community in the province. This went a long way towards bridging divides of race, culture, and religion that had all too often fueled hostilities in the province in the past. He was indeed a bridge builder between traditional communities as well. He believed that African kingships should unite to confront social ills in our society and conflict on the continent. He worked to quell tensions between locals and foreign nationals. He strongly believed that the country's laws on migration and employment should be respected, but he also spoke out against violence directed at foreign nationals. Our late king was a soldier in the war against gender-based violence. In December last year, he signed a pledge to fight gender-based violence, child abuse, and human trafficking. He championed men's dialogues as a way of confronting the attitudes and practices that led to the abuse of women and children. I felt sorry that due to his illness, His Majesty did not have the opportunity to hear the debate last week in the National House of Traditional Leaders, where the concept of developmental monarchs was tabled by Nkosi Mahlangu and Kgoshi Mokoena. He would have rejoiced to hear how our kings and queens across the length and breadth of our country and traditional leaders are taking the issue of development in the rural area forward and more seriously. The National House of Traditional Leaders had a most promising and refreshing engagement on how traditional leaders working with government can get involved and drive development in their communities and in turning rural areas into centers of employment, investment, and economic activity. This is a vision that is aligned to the personality of our departed king. We recall how he worked with the provincial government, with a number of national departments, with the private sector, and with various development partners on water provision, on drought relief, on agriculture and farmer development. He was very strong also on bridging the digital divide between rural and urban areas. He was a champion of rural development who truly believed in harnessing the potential that rural areas can offer. His vision on development was perhaps best articulated by another outstanding son of this province, Pixley Kaisa Kaseme, when he made his historic and iconic speech about the regeneration of Africa at Columbia University, when he said, "The brighter day is rising upon Africa. Already," he said, "I seem to see her chains dissolved, her desert plains red with harvest, her Abyssinia and her Zululand, the seats of science and religion, reflecting the glory of the rising sun from the spires of their churches and universities. Her Congo and her Gambia, whitened with commerce, her crowded cities, seething forth and humming with business, and all her sons and daughters," he might have added, "employed in advancing the victories of peace, greater and more abiding than the spoils of war," close quote. Fellow mourners, today we lay to rest a leader, but also a father, a husband, and a grandfather. The Zulu people are in mourning, and we all share in their sorrow. The passage of time since His Majesty's passing has seen the national flag being flown at half-mast, and this is not only in tribute to the important role that His Majesty played, but also deep respect for him. This is a profoundly difficult and painful time for the royal family and the people of our country. It is a time that should be accorded the necessary occasion and respect. Colonialism and apartheid sought to pit us against each other as different tribes and ethnic groups. The past rulers of our country established the Bantustan system. This was a system whose origin was all about oppression, exploitation, and division. They told us that it was for our own good, but it was just so that they could turn vast parts of our country into labor reservoirs for their own benefit. They conferred privileges on some traditional leaders, but denied them to others. They wanted to manipulate the institution of traditional leadership and turn it into an instrument with which to control the African people. Through this, they sought to foster tribalism and ethnic chauvinism, and also to perpetuate the oppression and exploitation of the people of our beautiful country, South Africa. In the face of this relentless onslaught, leaders like King Goodwill Zwelithini stood firm, determined that they should serve their people as their ancestors had done before them. His Majesty has left us, but his legacy lives on. It is a rich and proud legacy, and one for which he will forever be remembered. It was Cicero, the Greek philosopher, who said, "The life given us by nature is short, but the memory of a life well spent is eternal." Speaking in the House of Traditional Leaders last week, I said that one of the great strengths of the institution of traditional leadership is that it has endured over centuries. During times of plenty and of peace, and during times of great hardship and conflict. As we rebuild our country and restore the livelihoods of our people, we can be certain that the institution of traditional leadership will be a firm ally. Our nation has suffered a great loss, but let us pick up his spear and continue our quest to build a better South Africa. One of the things that I really admired with His Majesty is that he had faith in his country and its future. He had the faith to believe that we as a people and as a nation would win the battle for development, for progress and social justice. He did believe that we would triumph over poverty, inequality, and unemployment. He believed that we would triumph against gender-based violence and femicide. As we say farewell to Ubayete, we must remember our responsibilities as leaders to heal this land. Sithi kuNkulunkulu, duduzekani. The king is not dead, because kings don't die. Their spirits live with us, fueling the triumph of their kingdoms. Like most kings, His Majesty's demise carried much more and great consequence. And we now say to the royal family, thank you for sharing your father, your grandfather with us. And to the queens, we say thank you for sharing your husband with the nation. And we say kuwo wonke amakhosi nabaholi bamaqembu ezopolitiki, let us build on the legacy of our king. Let us unite in the fight against poverty. Let us fight against gender-based violence. Let us create work and opportunities for our king, for our youth. Our king has left us. Kodwa usoyohlangana nezilo eze phambi kwakhe. oDinizulu, oCetshwayo, oMpande, oDingane, ilembe eleqa amanye amalembe ngokukhalipha, uphunga noMageba. As the Black Mambazo sang, kukhona ikhaya lamaqhawe anqobile, the home of triumphant heroes. And that is where our king, Isilo, sesikhona nobaba umkhulu. Sithi hamba kahle Isilo samabandla. Wena wendlovu, wena wendlovu, bayede. Ngiyabonga.